Representative Lindsay. Welcome to the rules.
Thank you. First time here. And thank you for giving a hearing on this. I sincerely appreciate it. My name is Shawn Lindsay. I represent House District 30, which is Hillsborough and North Plains area for now. We'll see if there's any changes to that. If you'll just let me say a couple things. Some of you know that I like reading history, and I just finished studying some of the Dark Ages. It was a time where a cloud of darkness settled over the earth. It was a season of plunder and suffering marked by long and bloody conflict. Charlemagne was crowned the emperor of the Romans in the year 800. It was an age of hopelessness, a time of masters and serfs. The first 1,000 years after Christ passed and the second millennium dawned, the early centuries of the second millennium were a continuation of the first. It was a time fraught with fear and suffering. In the 14th century, the Great Plague began in Asia, and it spread to Europe and up to England, and everywhere it went there was sudden death. And Boccaccio said it the best, I think. He said of its victims, "At noon they dined with their relatives and friends, and at night they supped with their ancestors in the next world." The plague struck terror in the hearts of people. In 5 years it took the lives of 25 million people, 1/3 of the total population of Europe. Periodically it reappeared, with its dark and ghoulish hands striking indiscriminately. But this was also a season of growing enlightenment, the dawning of the Renaissance. As the years continued their relentless march, the sunlight of a new day began to break over the earth. There was a magnificent flowering of art, architecture, literature, etc. And there were reformers. They worked to change the church, notably such men as Luther, Melanchthon, Huss, Zwingli, and Tyndale. These were men of great courage, some of whom suffered cruel deaths because of their beliefs. And Protestantism was born with its cry for reformation. While the great ferment was stirring across the Christian world, political forces were also at work. And then came the American Revolutionary War, resulting in the birth of a nation whose constitution declared that government should not reach its grasping hand into matters of religion. A new day had dawned, a glorious day. Here there was no longer a state church, and no one faith was favored over another. The first provision of the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution is what many believe to be the most important guarantee. It reads, quote, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." Notwithstanding its special place in our Constitution, a number of trends are eroding both the protections that the Free Exercise Clause was intended to provide and the public esteem this fundamental value has had during most of our history. Under current Oregon law, people and institutions of faith are substantially burdened to prove that they have the burden to prove that they have a legitimate claim to their religious practices, when the burden should, based on the First Amendment free exercise guarantees, be placed on the shoulders of the state to prove that the state has a compelling interest to limit or disallow religious practices in question and use the least restrictive means possible when following through. There are Religious Freedom Restoration Acts that are being passed by the states, and I believe that state Religious Freedom Restoration Act is needed here because what Mr. Hamilton will explain shortly, federal law no longer provides the protection for religious liberty that it once did. Many states have moved and are moving to enact Religious Freedom Restoration Acts. Some of these states include Alabama, Arizona, Connecticut, Florida, Idaho, Illinois, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Mexico, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Texas, Vermont, Washington, Wisconsin, and of yesterday, North Dakota officially began considering it. I will note that in September 2000, the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, RLUPA, was signed into law. That's federal law, which restored the compelling interest test in most cases dealing with the application of land use and zoning law to property owned by religious persons or institutions. It affords religious freedom protection to prisoners and other persons in the custody of the state. In light of this, I have offered an amendment that I believe is being passed around that will strike Section 3 of House Bill 3609. I thank you for giving some consideration.
Mr. Chairman, we have copies of that amendment now for people who want them.
Thank you.